Antelope Freeway 1 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/2 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/4 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/8 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/16 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/32nd mile. Antelope Freeway 1/64th mile. Antelope Freeway 1/128th mile. Antelope Freeway 1/256 mile. Antelope Freeway 1/512 mile. We've just passed Antelope Freeway.
This is Dale Matthews. I run a free non-commercial website where we keep track of what's happening with the Josephine County Board of Commissioners. It's called badcounty.com and includes Bad County Facebook and Bad County Twitter. We're doing everything we can to share information with you. Unfortunately, our county government is pulling in exactly the opposite direction. I'll show you how they do this and what we can all do about it. Throughout America, there are rules about government meeting in secret session and taking votes without the people knowing anything about it. It's against the law, and it's there for a good reason, because we have a long history in Josephine County of commissioners getting together and deciding in a little back room what's going to happen next, and they don't tell you about it, you don't know about it, you don't know what the reasoning is. There are state rules about this where it bans that kind of activity. I'll give you an example. 2 commissioners go to CAJO, and they are involved in a discussion there of what's happening this month with the county commissioners. As they leave the radio station, they pause in the parking lot and just take a little vote about what they're going to do next. Wait a minute, that's illegal. So the reasoning behind this is that an informed public needs to hear what rationale they've used, if any, to make decisions. It's state law. It's required, and they know this. But they do it anyway. This is why I go to all of their meetings, and I'm listening to them, and I'm saying, now, what's the logic behind this, if there is any? And how can we get the information out to people so they can see for themselves what's behind the workings? There's an Oregon Revised Statute, 192-620, that says an informed public must be aware not only of the decisions of the government, but also of the information upon which decisions were made. Now, there are some people who say, well, if only we had 5 commissioners, this would be simpler, or 7, or maybe 107. No. In my opinion, it's not the number. It's the quality of the individual people. So when there are 3 commissioners, when they meet in a quorum, that means there's a majority, then they must do it in public. Well, wouldn't it be simpler if there were 7 and then 2 of them could meet? This is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do, because if they can meet and discuss things privately and agree secretly, then another 2 could do the same thing secretly. Hey, what's with all the secrecy? That's not the challenge. It's not, oh, gee, it's so hard. No, it's not hard. It just is when you're deliberating, when you're gathering information. This is important. Whenever they're gathering information about the county government, whenever they're discussing things, that's separate. Gathering information, you might just be sitting there listening. Whenever they have a discussion about county government, they can talk about daffodils if they want to, but as long as it's about county government, they have to include us. Now, honestly, there's not too many people that show up at the meetings, but I'm there, and then I tell you, I videotape them because that's also part of the law. We get to listen, and we can record what they've said, and then I play it back for you. You can hear in their own words, not translated by Jim Moore of the Daily Courier, who does the reporting about county government with all of his biases thrown in, but what they actually said, and then you get to hear what their logic was, so-called logic. Look, according to the Oregon Attorney General's Public Records and Meetings Manual, the public meetings law applies to all meetings of a quorum of a governing body for which a quorum is required in order to make a decision or to deliberate toward a decision on any matter. Even if a meeting is for the sole purpose of gathering information. They're sitting there listening to a presentation. They're not talking to each other. They're gathering information. Some organization comes to them and says, listen, I want to talk to you about something that falls within county government's responsibilities. Please just sit quietly and listen. And if you sit quietly, then you don't have to report it to anybody. No. It's not just if they're listening. Anytime they gather information, they have to share it with us, and that's only fair. I mean, they're supposed to be our public servants. They're coming to conclusions and then passing laws that have effects on you. Remember the ordinances that were defeated, the 4 ordinances? They came up with most of that information completely on their own. And they weren't listening to us. We tried to say to them, look, we don't want this. It was defeated by 80%. And if they'd listened a little more carefully, or if we'd been more part of their discussions about this, we might have been able to hold off the cost of that and not go through that whole thing. But they don't do it. So even if a meeting's for the sole purpose of gathering information to serve as the basis for subsequent decisions, says the Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS, it still comes under the heading of public meetings. This requirement serves the policy expressed in 192-620 I told you about, that an informed public must be aware not only of the decisions, you don't just tell us about your votes, but also about the information upon which these decisions were made. That's the quote. The state of Oregon says governing bodies sometimes want to have retreats or goal-setting sessions. These types of meetings, say the government, are nearly always subject to the public meeting law, because the governing body is deliberating toward a decision on official business or gathering information for making a decision. Now, recently, the county commissioners, this group of county commissioners more than any group before them, now says, well, we're only sitting and listening. This is a public meeting. No, we don't want to tell you because it's purely a social gathering. Now listen, they did this recently with So Ready. Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development, Inc. invited everybody over to their headquarters and said, oh, we're going to wine and dine you, and then you're going to sit in chairs, all facing the front, and we're going to put on a presentation. That's the reason for the meeting, is to see the presentation, and then you won't be talking to each other. You'll just be deliberating toward a decision. No. Wait a minute. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you'll watch this, and then you won't talk among yourselves at all. It doesn't matter. They're gathering information. Oh, well, you're not gathering information. You're snoozing? No. The reason to go is to listen to the presentation. This is really simple. Whenever you listen to a presentation that affects county government or might lead to a decision, you have to tell everybody you're going and invite the public. So what do? Every year, there's a meeting of the county commissioners. Usually there's one. There can be one, but it's usually more than one. It's a quorum. And they give a presentation to a private club called the Rotary Club in downtown Grants Pass. Every year they meet, and they give what's called the State of the County Report. Now, with a title like State of the County Report, does that sound to you like it's county business? Yeah. And even if they're giving the presentation, they also listen to other people who are in the room. Or they might listen to each other. One would hope that they would listen to each other. Say, the way that she just put that, Cheryl Walker, the way she just said that, makes me think that perhaps we ought to do this and this. Hey, you're talking about county business. You must include the county, the citizens. And we were invited to this, as we are every year. Before that meeting started, Simon Hare made sure that everybody knew that there was going to be a quorum of county commissioners there, which is the right way to do this. And so I went down earlier, as I always do every year, and set up my camera, asked permission. Oh, yeah, it's going to be in here. Okay, great. I was there. When Cheryl Walker arrived, she decided, well, she didn't want any witnesses. Only private club members. No, wait a minute. This is a public meeting. There's a quorum of commissioners. You're talking about county business. There's a precedent for this, and we were invited. No, she arranged to have the police called. The police came up to me and said, well, you got to go. And I said, well, I told them this whole thing. I said, it's state law. No, well, they don't want you here. And I said, that may be true that they don't want us here. It's state law. I'm obligated to protest. And I'm going to go if you tell me I must go. But first, I'm going to tell you why you are helping them break state law. It's a state of the county report. Of course it's about county business. And you can't have private club meetings. Oh, well, this is a private club. You're not invited. Hey, don't hold it here if it's a private club. What's the matter with you guys? You don't get to have meetings in private clubs where no one's invited. Not when you're talking about county business, unless there's just one of you. As long as there's two of you, the state law is very clear. Now, the reason I keep saying the state law is very clear is the county commissioners, these three county commissioners, keep saying, well, no, I think there's another interpretation. This is what the law says. In fact, they even give examples. They say, for example, members of a commission may decide to have an informal, long-range planning session to help guide, in general terms, the future priorities of the commission. Because the discussion at such a session is very likely to be the foundation for subsequent decisions. Whether decisions are made or not, it still is a meeting for the subject of public meeting law. Even an informal get-together between, say, state commission and state legislators would be subject to all of the requirements of the meetings law if a quorum of the commission is there. It does not matter, says the state, it does not matter that the discussion is informal or that no decisions are made. It's still a meeting. Now, the commissioners say, well, we don't really understand that. What's not to understand? Don't do it. I mean, even if you're confused, wouldn't it be better to err on the side of more transparency instead of less? They disagree. Well, it's only just informal, and we're just sitting and drinking cocktails and eating little hors d'oeuvres, and we're talking about county business. No, you don't get to do that. Well, only invited members of this private club. You don't get to do that. Well, we have to meet sometimes with the movers and shakers in the community, and we can't just have regular citizens. This is against the law. That's the purpose of the law, is so that you don't get a chance to do that. That's not okay. Well, our legal counsel, fortunately, we're saying goodbye to 19 years of that guy who's always run unopposed. Steve Rich is out the door. He said to me the other day, I'm a lame duck. I won't get to do much more after 6 months. Yes, you won't be able to, because the advice he often gives to them is, I think this one, you're not actually talking to each other and taking a vote. It doesn't matter. Well, we didn't really take a vote while we were there. It doesn't matter. It's illegal. And excluding the people from these meetings is illegal. Well, if they had 7 members, then 2 of them could be wined and dined by some group, and then they could report it to the other 2. Now, how are they going to report it to the other 2? Because when they do so, that's a quorum. Oh, poor county commissioners, they're forced to have their discussions in front of the public. Yes, that's right. That's what they're forced to do. But we don't want to. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to? Well, we might have some touchy subject to talk about. We want to know. That's our business. You're our employees. Employees don't get to talk about touchy subjects and then make decisions for the entire company. They have to talk about it in front of their bosses. We're the bosses. They must share this information with us. It's absolutely required. Okay, here's another example given by the state. As a member of a 3-member governing body, like our Board of Commissioners, must I notify the press and public and arrange for their attendance every time I drop into a colleague's office or make a telephone call to one of my colleagues in a quorum? Yes, says the state. Yes, you must. If you drop into a colleague's office and start talking about roses, no problem. Feel free. You start talking about county business, it's not okay to do that. Oh, that sounds like it's awful hard on the commissioners. No, wait a minute. They're talking about county business outside of the presence of the county? Really? This is how the little back room thing starts. Well, we'll make up our mind. I see this happen all the time. And then we'll go to the big public meeting, and then we'll announce the results. Well, wait a minute. How did you come to this conclusion? Oh, well, that's kind of private. No, you don't get to make private decisions like this and then have some public signing ceremony. You must share with us. We must have a chance to hear the evidence upon which you base this decision. Well, gosh. Well, couldn't you just appeal to the state? First of all, why do we have to appeal to the state? These guys know what the law is. Why is it necessary to appeal to the state? The state's already made it very clear what the rules are. Well, you could complain about it. Let me tell you, we're on our own. The state has enough problems as it is, and they made it very clear, yes, that's against the law, but we're awful busy. Yeah, right. We may be doing some of your own breaking of the law. What we do, the only chance that we have, is to take it to the court of public opinion. Yes, if you were made out of money, you might be able to take it to circuit court every time it comes up. And if you wish to donate money for that, why, you can get in touch with us at badcounty.com, and we're going to help you with that. And we'll all work together. But aside from that, really all we can do is talk to each other, like on this show, and I can tell you about what the rules are and why they are. Well, this is a little bit boring. Okay, great. Do you wish that all those ordinances passed without any input from you? Oh, well, they know best. Yeah, you really think they know best? What were the requirements to get the job? There are no requirements to have the job except for the fact that you live here. Well, maybe they're in this position for a reason, and they know more than we do. What makes you think that they know more than we do? I mean, give me a break. They know more than we do? Why do they know more than we do? They're supposed to share the information with us. But the commissioners think that what you need to know is really nothing. They're just going to tell you what the rules are. As a previous treasurer said, your job is to sit in the audience with your hands on your lap and listen while we give you the information. This is not participatory government. That's really what he said. That's what he felt. That's the way, that's the role that we, as the bosses, because they're our employees, that's our role, is to sit there and be given information from on high. This is an imperial kind of government. I mean, really, this is not my vision of America. We're supposed to be informed, especially when we ask for the information, and then they say, well, we're not going to give that to you. You're not going to give it to us? Well, can we buy it? Now, why should I have to buy the information? I've already paid for it anyway, so have you. Well, yeah, we're not really going to make that available. Really? So I need to fill out a Freedom of Information Act document to find out what you did? So Simon Hare put it to me once. He said, those can be rather costly because of all the research it takes to find out what we did. Really, you know what you did. Why don't you just tell me what you did or make it available to us? Well, it's going to cost you a lot of money to keep up with what we do. I said, really? You're telling me it's going to cost me a lot of money as a citizen to keep up with what you're doing as our elected representative?
We've just passed Antelope Freeway.